God. So I ripped down the road down to the river again to go rattle off a bunch of emails sent in to be shared with all of you. And I brought the microphone so I could actually sit on that river and put the microphone on a rock and you guys hear me crystal clear over top of the river. And I went down, there's monster bear swimming in the water, there's another one on the rocks, and another one on the shore. I thought I was going to videotape a collision with the big one and the medium one. And I got a bunch of real cool footage of the bears. And then I set up the video, made the video, and shared a bunch of emails, forgot my glasses, but I managed to read fairly smoothly anyway. Got back up, slammed the editing program. The microphone didn't shut off 15 seconds into it. And you cannot hear a word I said over the river. So I just whip back up, open up the shop door, see if I can salvage some of this light.
If you got something eating at you, and you need to get off your chest and share with people, make sure you do it. Alright? This is a safe place. It's a safe place to do it. We're all in the same boat, we're all equal. We're all here to have each other's back. Alright?
And I will repeat every single one of these emails that I shared down there before I turn in for the night, all right? So here we go. North Florida, early 90s. Steve, I recently found your channel. I must admit I subbed within 10 minutes. My name is Tom Burns. Feel free to use it and the locations contained herein. It was in late 1991. I was solo hunting midweek in the north section of Camp Blanding, a large local management area here in North Florida. I believe it is better than 60,000 acres separated by a large state road. The main function of the area is a National Guard base and was a POW camp during World War II for captured German prisoners. This part of the state is lightly populated by Florida standards, just to set the scene. Like I said, I was solo hunting midweek, as I did often in my early 20s. It was a cold, clear, windy day here, and the temperature is around 40 Fahrenheit. The wind had been blowing hard all week, but I went out to my favorite spot like I always did. I found a blown down large oak tree that was essentially a widowmaker. The branch that formed a natural armchair style seat about 15 feet off the ground, and I'd been using it to watch over a natural boundary between a pine grove and an oak ridge. This boundary was essentially a large deer trail and an excellent ambush point. I climbed up the tree and nestled into my spot just after lunchtime, intending to sit until dark. Once I climbed up, I took my orange vest off and wrapped it around the tree above my head. I did this because it would catch in the limbs and restrict any of my movement. Not long after sitting there, I realized the wind was swirling around me, and success was not very likely deer-wise. I decided to stay put and proceed to nap on and off and relax. An hour or so later, I was roused by loud shuffling and rustling in the oak leaves way off to my left. I perked up and listened intently as the noise grew louder and louder. I could see better than 100 yards through the scrub oaks and large pines in all directions, so I knew it was truly a loud sound. After what seemed like a lifetime, I spotted movement off to my left. I could just see something passing through the lighted gaps, moving from my left to the right at the limits of my vision. My custom Mauser 308 was laying on my leg, and I lifted it to my eye to try to get a glimpse of whatever was causing all the racket. The wind was blowing, and it was making enough noise for me to hear it crashing along above the constant rustle of the leaves. The noise stopped abruptly, and I noticed something looking at me around an oak tree. I arranged myself to get a look at it through my 3x9x40 scope, and it appeared to be just a greenish-gray blob resembling Spanish moss. I continued to watch it, and it appeared to be moving from tree to tree, playing a game of hide-and-seek with me, all the while moving across my horizon. When it got to about 2 o'clock position, it stopped and stayed there for better than 5 minutes, not moving. I had my crosshairs on it the whole time, and honestly, the thought of shooting it never crossed my mind. I had never felt fear in the woods until that second. No matter what that was watching me, it had to know that I was aiming at it. I tried to rationalize what I was looking at, but it just looked like a cross between lichen green and gray moss fuzziness. I was truly unnerved and decided to slide down the tree and get my ass back to my car. I was parked about a quarter mile away and walked backwards the whole way. Steve, I've shared this with select friends over the years and never received any ridicule or doubt from them, as I'm a no bullshit kind of guy. Feel free to do what you want with this info. I did return to that same area and used my recollections to figure out that the head of my watcher was no less than 8 feet off the ground. I knew what I was looking at as soon as I saw it. Thank you for the platform to relay my tale. Tom Burns, sub for life. That's a holy shit story, Tom. And first off, thanks for taking that time to share that here with everybody, word for word. That same scenario has been shared I don't know how many times, and that exact description has been videotaped by a female bow hunter, I believe Dave Plias. I think Dave shared that content in one of his 411 movies. She's sitting in a tree stand and videotaped that damn thing doing the exact same thing you mentioned what you saw. It's about as unnerving as it can get, right? Imagine having a gray fuzzy thing you can kind of see through it, but maybe not, stalking you in the woods, just like the movie Predator. I think we mentioned that the other day too, how many parallels there have been with a lot of these current sightings, past sightings, and the movie industry and what they've come up with in their movies. A lot of parallels, right? A lot of coincidences. Moving along. Thanks again for that share, man. Share more when it comes in, if it comes in, all right? Welcome to the club of no return. When Bigfoot kicks you out of the hunting party without telling you, you've been kicked out. Hello, Steve. My name is Sean. I've listened to your stories and commented a short of my experience on one of your videos. Just recently discovered the email address at the beginning of the last video you posted. Let's get to it so you can get to more stories. It was late Washington elk season, November 25th, 2020, right along I-90, south of a town called Easton, about 10 minutes from Clelum. My buddy owns land right next to the power line easement. Once you cross the easement into the national forest, so you can travel all the way over Cascade Range if you desire. I was waiting for my friend Mike to show up that morning to join the 4-day hunt. It was early, 7 a.m. I decided to go look for a fresh track since it dusted the night before. I walked about a mile down the easement, then cut over to the timber line and found a road/trail that had one single track in it, so I walked in. Just as I walked in, my phone started buzzing in my pocket. It was my daughter's boyfriend who had never called me, so I figured something was wrong, so I answered, and he started blubbering about how she broke up with him. I told him to shake it off. It'll be okay, I gotta go. Personally, it was good news he was a vegan. So I start walking into the timber, following the single track, right when all of a sudden I hear and feel this loud crack, like two stones the size of small cars being struck together. Once, no secondary sound, just dead quiet. The only thing I can hear is my heart pounding and the snow melting from the piss running down my leg. I've never felt a sound like this. It disrupted my insides. But what's creepier is no other sound followed it. I froze for what seemed like 5 minutes. I just looked around and walked right back out. I could only deduct that whatever was in there was massive and could create a powerful, unnatural sound that would make sure to let me know something is in there and doesn't want company. I had a bow and a sidearm, but I knew I would be the one in the bad if I trespassed. The thing I don't get is why it came down so low. There's still elk up high with very little snow at the time. I never really put up any stock into this matter. I figured with all the thermal IR technology on drones and aircraft, this myth should have been dispelled years ago. Not so much anymore, my friend. A whole new world is out there, or old world. Maybe that one guy who talked about the flood was onto something. Maybe the giants retreated to high altitudes to escape the deluge. I love these stories there. Part of my mundane work day. I love these stories. They are the part of my mundane workday I look forward to. Thanks for sharing, Steve. Okay, man. Thank you for that share. And you got to admit, everybody, that's something else. If a sound can make a grown man, armed man, piss his pants. How many times has the terror been described just from the sounds? That's something else, and there's nothing to envy. At least you're hearing the sounds, like I always say. As long as you're hearing the sounds, you're okay. Should be okay. It's like, I remember I guided a Syrian doctor one time for big game. He's on a hunt, and he was telling me about growing up with the shelling, missiles, bombs, and he said as long as you could hear the shell coming, you were okay. How creepy is that? He said it's the ones you didn't hear are the ones that were coming right for you and they killed you. Anyway, that's just reminded me of that when I said that, and there you go. Scary encounter and continuous encounters. Dear Steve, I've been following your channel for a couple years now. I want you to know that you're a great man and you're a true gentleman. You don't know how much appreciated you truly are. Thank you very much, and I absolutely appreciate every single person that writes in. We're all one group, equal people here. Thank you for those kind words. My name is Jesse Paul. Feel free to use my name. I'm 35 years old. I've been a hunter and a fisherman my whole life. Back in 2016, me and my wife purchased a home in Hillsboro, Michigan. Missouri, sorry. I grew up just down the road, and the house is on private lake and kind of secluded. So me and my son thought I was a piece of heaven because he also loves the outdoors, shooting, fishing, and riding dirt bikes. Not long after we moved in, we discovered the lake has a leak in the dam and drains down to less than half its usual size. It's quite a bummer, but whenever we get heavy rains, it stays up and we enjoy it as much as we can. We live on a private street with only 8 other houses, but they're spaced apart quite a bit, so everybody has about an acre of their own land, and due to the lake shrinking up over the years, we're the only house that has a clear view and good access to the lake. We have woods on all sides of us, so we have the privacy I've always wanted. In 2018, I put up a hammock in our yard because I've always wanted one, and there's nothing better than lounging outside on summer nights, especially after a long, hard day at work. Like I said, I've always loved the outdoors, and I've never been bothered by any wildlife around here because bears are rare around here, so I didn't think there was too much to worry about. So I thought. I've always believed in these creatures 100%. I just never thought in a million years they would be anywhere close to here. One summer night in August of 2018, I dozed off on my hammock outside, and my wife had come out a couple of times to wake me up to come inside. The third time she came out, she said, "You really should come inside. There's something down by the lake, and it sounds like whatever it is was eating ducks." She said, "There's a lot of commotion. You should come in, and this is the last time I'm coming out here to wake you up." So she went inside and went to sleep. About an hour had passed since she came out, so I decided to go inside and go to sleep, since I had to work the next morning. So I got up and decided right before I went inside. By this time, it's 1 a.m. We had recently had some rain, so I decided I would walk by the lake and check to see if I could see any fish. I had a 300 lumen flashlight with me, so I shined it toward the shallow end of the lake, and there it was. This guy was very bit of 11 feet tall, dark brown, with a huge pointed head and huge black eyes. I could scale the height because it was standing between these two saplings, about 11 feet high. He was standing there watching me sleep for how long, I don't know. I was so shocked I turned off the flashlight and then turned it back on to see if I was going crazy. Nope. When I turned the light back on, he had knelt down between these two trees, almost as shocked as I was because he was fully exposed between these two trees. Still in shock, I turned the light off and back on again. When I turned it back on, he was standing up again, and he had his hand in front of his face to block the light. It was the biggest hand I've ever seen. We were about 15 yards from each other at this point. That's frickin' close. He then took his hand from his face and stood up as tall as he could with his chin up, almost to say, "Get the light off me." My back door was about 30 yards away at this point, and something told me, do not turn my back on this thing. I usually carry a 9mm Beretta on me except for that night. I remember reaching behind my back for it. I'd walk backwards up my whole yard to my sun deck, keeping the light on him as much as possible. It's crazy how the mind works, because I must have been in there in so much shock, I just lay down next to my wife and went to sleep. It wasn't until 2 days later, after work, I was having a drink with my wife, and it suddenly hit me. Guess what I saw? She then proceeded to tell me that she had seen the same thing, just not as clear as I had seen it. Ever since that night, Steve, I've had a whole different perspective. I see signs of these things everywhere. It sucks so bad because now I'm too scared to take my son camping, and me and my family get scared inside every night after a certain time. They're all around here, and how nobody else sees them or signs is beyond me. I received nothing but ridicule from friends, family, and neighbors. It sucks so bad, Steve. I sure hope we all get the answers we deserve. To the rest of the people on this channel that have had encounters, I feel so bad, and I truly know the world isn't what it seems. Thanks, Steve, to the good Lord above for you and the hard work you continue to do for everybody. God bless you and your family and stay safe. Yeah, that sucks ass. And it does suck, especially the ridicule. It does suck when you didn't ask for it. Nobody asked for it. Now you're a member of the club of no return, meaning you can't go back to what life was like before you didn't know. Like I tell everybody, if once you see one of these things, that is when you know absolutely without a doubt that we are being lied to, misinformed, or misled in life by the people who share knowledge with us from a young age, from grade 1 on, right? And that is why other topics are cracking open on this channel. It's because, like I said before, there's either two routes you take after you've seen these things for yourself. Either one, you get obsessed with the topic and you stay fixated on it, put the blinders on, and you stay focused on banging on trees and whooping in the night tracks. And you stay there for your whole life. Nothing changes. Or you instantly realize that you've been misled, misinformed, and lied to, and you start asking questions. Oh, why? Why? You start questioning everything. And then you start seeing the light bulb go off with numerous other topics. And then you see through the blatant bullshit that's being fed to the population. And then you start asking more questions. And then you start gaining knowledge. And you start sharing with the people even more knowledge on different topics. And that's how it works. Unless your brain is half dead and can only stay focused in tunnel vision on one little topic, which mine can't. And that's why I'm jumping down other rabbit holes and sharing other information with all you guys. But as for you and your property and these things being all over the place, you can get a hold of Scott Carpenter. He's got a lot of good tips that have helped other people in the past. But the best thing you can do is speak out loud to these things, tell them they're not welcome there. You don't give a shit about them. You know they are there, they know you are there, and just to leave you alone. And let them know flat out, if they mess with you, you'll mess with them and put a hole in them. That's what I do, and it's so far it's worked for me. They do let me know of their presence a couple times a year, but I'm still here, right? And I don't go looking for them intentionally. Thanks again for sharing that. Well, I don't know what the lighting situation's like here now, but it doesn't really matter. As long as you can hear me, that's what counts, all right? So I'm gonna keep going. Thanks again for sharing that. If you need any assistance or help or advice or anything, or you want to share any more, email me, get it to me, all right? Dear Steve, been following your channel for a couple years now, and I want you to know that you're a great man. I already read that one. Hi Steve, please call me Chris, with no last name if you share my story. I've been interested in the Sasquatch topic ever since I saw the movie Harry and the Hendersons as a young child. I'm now 19. I have 2 different unexplainable experiences in the woods. The first occurred in Sunbright, Tennessee in 2020. Sunbright is a very rural town, and my father owned 70 acres of woodlands at the time of this experience. My story begins when I decided to take a walk by myself down to a valley with a creek running through the center of it. While on my walk, I found a game trail and decided to follow it just to see where I would end up. Everything was normal until I reached a part of the trail that entered into the thicket. As I took my first step into the thicket, I immediately felt uneasy. I was armed with a 20-gauge shotgun, but that was it. As I stepped into the thick brush, I was hit with a wave of uneasiness. I felt very threatened and decided to turn around and leave the area. As I was walking the game trail I followed into the area, I stumbled upon the hind leg of a fawn deer in the middle of a game trail that I'd followed into the area. When I entered the area, I did not see the leg, even though I walked past the exact spot I found it. The leg was removed at the hip. The hip joint was still fully intact, but there were no cut/teeth marks on the leg. The fur on the leg was matted down near the lower end of the leg, close to the hoof, like as if something had grabbed it. The hide near the hip appeared to be torn, not cut. This struck me as very odd. The leg seemed like it had been torn off rather than cut off. I felt like something was not right and headed back to the cabin that was in the property, not wanting to hang around the area. My second unexplainable experience occurred within 1 mile of my home. I live in the suburb outside of Nashville, Tennessee. I decided to go fishing around sunfall, hoping to catch some fish on the Harpeth River. While fishing, I heard a series of splashes across the river, but there was no rippling on the water or any sign of movement on the water. The sound was very obvious to me, but I could not find the source of the noise. This made me uncomfortable and decided to head back home. My stories are relatively unexciting, but I do not feel comfortable telling friends or family, and I feel like I need to tell someone my stories. Whenever I'm in the woods, I can't help but think about the Sasquatch phenomenon. Before both my experiences, I had Sasquatch on my mind. I would appreciate your input or opinion as to what may have happened. I believe the way you're doing is righteous and must be done by someone. The Sasquatch phenomenon is going to be legitimized. You are helping people, and I wish you the best of luck with your endeavors. Sincerely, Chris. Okay, Chris, thanks for that share, man. And what do I think about that? There isn't a predator alive that's going to drop a hind quarter of a fawn on the trail. A coyote's going to pick up that entire fawn and run with it. A wolf obviously going to pick it up, that entire carcass, and run with it. A cat's going to pick up the entire carcass and run with it. He's going to bury it. He's not going to dismember it like that, pull it apart. What may have possibly happened, I don't know, man. Maybe one of these beings ripped a hind quarter off it, seeing you're a young hunter, and threw it on the trail for you to share, make sure you went home with something. I don't know. But either way, it sounds like something's let you know that it's there. It let you know. It intentionally let you know it's there. So what you do with that information knowledge now is up to you. You're either going to avoid that spot altogether, not go there, or if you do intend on going back there, just do what I do. Just say out loud, I know you're here, you know I'm here, let's not ruin it for each other. I don't want anything to do with you, just leave me alone. That's what I do. And although they still do seem to make their presence known to me 2 or 3 times a year, I still go out there. I'm not going to stop. But if I do get the living shit scared out of me at a particular place, I don't go there anymore. I just leave it alone. The odd time I might go back like I did when I took my trail camera back into that spot where I had that stand last spring, and I put the trail camera and I hung that meat in there up high on the rope. I still haven't got that camera yet, and I will soon though. But that's probably one of the first times I went back there, and that happened years ago when I had those 2 beings above me beating on trees back and forth. Very unnerving. I didn't like it at all, and I didn't want to experience that again, so I stopped going there. United by Sabe, use as you wish. Alright, let's see, that's a confusing, odd title. Dear Steve, you can use my name. Love your channel, keep up the good work. You're uniting people in the knowledge that Sabe is real. Unity among all people scares the heck out of the 1% that pulls the strings, the politicians, the media, etc. Their strategy is divide and conquer. That was also Hitler's strategy. But united though we are regarding Sabe, we probably don't agree on everything, and we shouldn't let that divide us. I listened to your rants about items currently in the news, and you're absolutely right, up to a point. If, and let's say you are more than right than me, I rant for the other side of any issue, I am also absolutely right up to a point. The items in the news are just a distraction. The news always promotes something divisive to keep us arguing. I live in the Midwest with cornfields like an ocean. Every kernel of hybrid corn we produce is infertile. To plant next year's crop, I must buy seed from the man, only to sell it back to the man, at terminals he owns, at the price he sets. If I grow a heirloom seed that is not infertile so I can hold back my own seed for next year's crop, the man will put me out of business on the land that I rent from the bank that he controls. How free is a serf? Imagine how funny the man thinks it is that you and I might argue over whether wearing the paper mask or not wearing the paper mask reduces our freedom. It is the stuff in front of our noses that never makes the news that we should be concerned about. Neo, think Matrix movie, and I am just another Neo trying to wake up. Recognition of the existence of Sabe, the other cryptids, and ET can change the perception of reality for everyone, everywhere, and help Homo sapiens see themselves, the people, as a single species, a single race. This terrifies the man behind the curtain. So does forbearance, patience, understanding, compassion, moderation, and, dare I say it, love for your fellow man. If you have seen Sabe, you know you have more in common with me than him, regardless of my stupid politics, my silly prejudices, my fragile ego. President Reagan told the UN the same thing. I love your work. It is very important. We should discuss this over coffee at my place someday. Truly your friend, Grant. Grant, wise words. Thank you very much for those words. Absolutely appreciate it. We're going to get to the bottom of everything. But first we have to unite all the people, right? We all have to understand that we're all on the same page. We all have to understand that we all have each other's back and nobody else does. We are all we have. It's all we got is each other. Start hating on each other, you got nothing.